Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is September 27th, 2024, and we're looking at Bitcoin. This week was a little goofy in terms of video releases, and so was the end of last week, but next week should be pretty much normalized in terms of schedule with the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday videos for you. But we're going to take a look at Bitcoin because we do have the potential to see some longer term time frame structural changes on the weekly. Now, we're going to review kind of where the daily is, as the daily is in a nice little uptrend here. We'll take a look at the 5-day to kind of check in on where that closed. And then that's going to kind of give us some criteria to look for over this weekend. And we're first going to talk about trend. We'll then take a look at support and resistance. We'll then talk about the Bollinger Bands, which is how we are measuring volatility along with BBWP down here. And then we'll take a look at momentum. And, this should be a fairly easy one to digest today. Now, Bitcoin did put in its nice higher low on a closing basis back here at 57.5. So that was a good, nice higher low. Bitcoin has moved pretty far away from it at this point. So Bitcoin has room for pullbacks on the daily. Fair game in trend would be this last lower high here that was broken on after the higher low was put in. We got that higher high structure put in shortly thereafter, and that was our trend shift. If we want to see complete trend on the daily, we need to see at minimum another higher low on a close, and then higher high, of course. But as it stands, this is a nice little trend reversal structure, and we did see Bitcoin close above the $65,000 level. On the daily, that's encouraging. We'll see where that closed on the 5-day, but more importantly, we want to see a close above $65,000 on the weekly. That would break the weekly downtrend. So nice higher low structure here. Last higher low is truly at, for closes, is truly at that 57,500 on a swing and 58.2 on a close open. So realistically, I don't want to see Bitcoin back below there. That would endanger this particular uptrending structure. Now, if you were to throw a swing indicator on, you will see that there is no actual swing higher low either. So most swing indicators, you're going to see some people call this a little swing structure in here. This is really just a consolidation and then push up. So this is still a nice uptrend with the last higher low here at that 57.5 on a swing basis. So I did want to point that out because I did get some questions about this little sideways chop in terms of its structural significance. Sorry for whistling in your ear there. Let's go ahead and throw on support and resistance here. And we want to do the accumulation distribution zones because Bitcoin did a few very important things, right? We've talked about this recover zone quite a bit, where Bitcoin kind of dipped back into the risk zone, held up. If it was to get back below 58.4, then we were looking at that 57.5 as potentially in danger. It did not do that, pushed up and closed right on the bottom side of the recover zone here at around 60,000 to 60,300, depending on your chart. And then where we were looking next, 63.8 outside of the 61.5 here, which we got on the very next candle, 61.7 to 61.8. And then 62.8, you'll see got pushed through right up to that 63.8 to $64,000. I believe this is where we're talking about price kind of trying to head on Tuesday, and then getting a nice close above 63.8, testing $65,000 over here was needed to push up to 65.5 to 67,272. So, this is the big, this is where the rubber hits the road. 65.5 on the daily does put it above the first prior cycle high from 2021. It also puts it above this wick high from the second lower high of the first major downtrend of the range here. So that is a significant area of interest. We did get a close on Friday above it. The next big area would be the first major lower high of the downtrend here at 67,272. And again, I want to point this out for those that have asked. Let's turn the Bollinger Bands off here for a moment. I know I explained this a lot, but I do still get a lot of new people, so please bear with me. So I do want to explain why this is the pivot zone. We had the first major the first major move down with the first major lower high of a downtrend coming in at 67,272. So yes, we did get lower highs up here after the all-time high in the context of an uptrending structure. Then we got the trend break down to that 65 and a half swing. I'm sorry, this was no, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? The first move down was 60. It was 59.5, and then we had the 56.5 low before the trend reversal structure. But the first major lower high was here at 67,272. Second major lower high was there at that 65.5. So basically a rejection of the prior cycle's first swing high on the longer term time frames at $65,000. We had the higher low structure come in. That's actually right around the bottom side of our recovery zone. You can see how the next downtrending structure kind of sat right there where that higher low came in at that 60,000 to 60,300. But more importantly, this first major lower highs and second major lower highs of downtrends are primary areas of resistance in terms of looking at things historically. So that's the area that needs to be recovered now. Now that Bitcoin has closed above 65.5, in terms of support and resistance, the next major level to the upside is 67,272. Above there, there's kind of no man's land between around that area at 60,272 to 68 to 68.3 here. And that just so happens to be essentially 68 to 70, which is where the first major lower high of the second big downtrend of the range is coming in at the run of highs above here. Above there, I would be looking from 70 to 71 and a half, $72,000 or so, where the double top is here that led to that second major downtrend. And then above there, I'm looking at the all-time highs and higher. Looks good. Now, if Bitcoin does lose 65 and a half here at the bottom side of the pivot zone, it's fair game all the way back to 63.8 here, and even in the most recent structure here. So, anywhere below there inside of the recovery zone is fair game, somewhere around 62 and a half to this 62,800 wick here, or 61.8, I'm sorry, 61.8. And, that's fair game if Bitcoin pulls back. If you start to see anything around here below 61.8 to 61 and a half, then the bottom side of the recovery zone is probably in the cards, at least, 61,800 over here. You got the 62,800 wick here kind of holding up this set of candles, then 61.8, then 60,000, 60,300. Anywhere below there, we're looking right back to 58.4 and possibly this higher low structure, right? So do keep an eye on that. Right now, price looks good. The bulls have taken it to the bears. The bears took a little too long to try and push things down. The bulls pushed back, and the bears had nothing left to give here. So we'll see what the next week holds. Now, more importantly, we do have to talk about some of the higher term time frame stuff today. We'll get through some of the daily here, and then we're going to talk about the 5-day weekly, and then we're going to talk about the monthly quarterly, because we do have the end of the month coming up here. So on Monday, that is going to be the end of the month. So I will be talking to you on Monday after the close, and that's going to be the end of the month and the end of the quarter as well. So we do have some interesting things just to check up on. I will expand upon it on Monday, but we will take a quick look at that. Let's go ahead and throw back on our bands here. So we talked a little bit about trend, support, and resistance. Let's look at where volatility is lining up. And we have a bunch of confluent areas. You can see the upper second standard deviation is right there at that 67,272. We see that the upper first, which is where in terms of volatility, if you see the 65.5 lost, you do want to see Bitcoin holding above the upper first here to preserve the volatility, the momentum of volatility in this case to the upside. And that's coming in at around, let's see, it's 64,400 or so. It's basically right around the close open here of the candle set here that put in the $65,000 high. Anywhere below there, we're looking back to the recovery zone. Still good above the basis band, which is right there at 61.5. Anywhere below there, you can see that 60,000 to 60,300 area at the bottom side of the recovery zone is important, but from the context of volatility, if that's lost, look to the lower first, skating right across the top of this 58.4 level. Anywhere below there, you see the lower second lining up perfectly with the bottom side of the risk zone, top side of the danger zone here at 55,850. So, we have a lot of confluent areas. If we were to see Bitcoin closing above the upper second standard deviation, you can see that, the area at 68 to 70 is right where the upper third is coming in. Any closes above there and pretty aggressive expansion of volatility will start to show itself to the upside. Not just targeting that area, but likely maybe even residual expansion to the highs and higher. But as it stands right now, we are, coming into a weekend here. It's already the weekend. It's already the Saturday candle. So, we have had some pretty low volatility weekends, and then we've gotten a few surprises here and there. So just make sure you understand where the levels of interest are to the upside and downside over the weekend, and then watch it carefully once CME and pre-market opens on Sunday for the New York sessions and of course the Chicago Mercantile Exchange session opening on Sunday. That is likely going to be a little bit of volatility injection if there isn't any in the Saturday into Sunday candle, and then we look to Monday. Monday should be interesting, and let's see if the bulls want to close strong. Let's go ahead and take a look at momentum as we have covered the first three major areas of technical analysis that I like to point out, which is trend, support and resistance, volatility, and then we talk about momentum because the first three technically make up the fourth. We can see that 65.5 is the actual momentum pivot. So you want to see Bitcoin trading above 65.5 to preserve upside of our stochastic momentum indicator here. And, it's got a bunch of other fancy stuff here. Essentially what this is telling me is, it is kind of in the extreme zone here, but it can hang out for extended periods of time. And this is a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. So Stoch RSI is measuring the velocity of RSI or the speed of RSI. In this case, this is measuring close over close price momentum. So closing above 65.5 right here in the pivot zone would, still point to that 67,272 and above by that upper second standard deviation. We don't have any in-trend bearish divergence as it stands right now. Yes, there is bearish divergence or hidden bearish divergence available. That's only corrective if we're not seeing any in-trend regular bearish divergence, and that is not currently possible at the moment. So looking good for the bulls in that respect. So pullbacks welcome as long as they are remaining above this 57.5 as it stands right now, and especially anywhere above that 62.5 to 62.8. So this high over here, and that looks good. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the 5-day. So we did get a really nice 5-day structure, and we did see, let's go ahead and get rid of the support and resistance areas. All of the same stuff still going to apply on the longer term time frames, right? It's always good to see closing structures break into these zones on longer term time frames as well. It's a bit more powerful than just daily. But we can see, Bitcoin initially rejected the upper first of the Bollinger Band set here, right around the $65,000 area. We see that this was a close on the 5-day, or the wick high, I should say, of this rejection is at $65,050. What did this 5-day close come in at? 65,177. So this is officially, ever so slightly, a downtrend break on the 5-day time frame. So that's very encouraging for the bulls. I would not be surprised to see pullbacks, even if it pushes higher or even makes a new all-time high. 5-day pullback into higher low structure is what we want to see from here. We do have a swing higher low on the 5-day down here. This is a swing higher low, but it is a closing lower low. So it's nice to see that swing higher low structure, but in this case, we do still welcome at least another swing higher low or a closing higher low. But, it looks good to keep pushing up from here in the 5-day, especially being above the upper first. The upper second is fair game. It's right around the close open up here at 68 to 68.3. This, by the way, just so happens to be the run the highs above here zone that I was just showing you, around that $68,000 to $70,000 areas. That is this area. Of course, that was the first. It was based on the second downtrend, which just happened to hold up as perfect resistance. And above there, it starts to get volatile back to the highs. 70 to 72, and then up to 73.35 and higher. So that is an encouraging thing for the bulls. And realistically, bears, you're not looking at too much encouraging for yourselves unless you see, Bitcoin losing the basis band again here at around 60,500 and under. There is daily support under there, right? Even on the daily, we wouldn't even see, as it stands right now, until we see a high and then another higher low at minimum on a swing on the daily. It's not even, you're looking all the way back at 57.5 bears. So this is definitely more bullish than bearish in that regard. If we were to see, 52.5, then it's, bulls are getting washed at that point. But as it stands right now, the outlook for the bulls is a little bit more favorable, right? Especially with a downtrend break on a higher term time frame like the 5-day. RSI is looking good so far. Nothing concerning there. We also have Stoke pointed to the upside here. $55,000 is the pivot, so that pivot's pretty far away as well. About $10,000 away on the pivot. That doesn't mean that we don't see $10,000 candles in Bitcoin. We've seen plenty of them. And but very, very encouraging for the bulls at this particular moment, because the fact is they have now finally broken the downtrend and can only make a higher high. So from there, we want to see higher low structure emerge. At minimum, another swing higher low or closing higher low. The same goes for the weekly. If the weekly can close above this high, same area, $65,050 here on spot price. So this is realistically, this is what we need to see. We need to see a close above here by Sunday, and that would be not just a 5-day downtrend break, but a weekly downtrend break, and that would be encouraging. Again, it might take time for structure to develop. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't push back to the highs and higher, but in terms of like breakout and blue sky, we do need to see at least a swing higher low, another swing higher low, because we do have a swing higher low here, but we have a closing lower low. So at minimum, what I want to see is any kind of pullback in a swing higher low structure, which can happen all in one candle, or a couple of candles that go sideways, or closing higher low structure on the weekly, and then we start to look for more aggressive moves. And that doesn't mean that this move can't continue, right, to test the highs and higher and make it a new all-time high. I just want to see another higher low swing or close from there. And then I'm looking for things to actually get rip into the upside on some longer term time frames. So in this case, looks good to at least test up further. The upper first is right here at 67,400, so just above that key topside pivot zone where I was calling out the first daily lower high at 67,272 from the first downtrend. That's right around where the weekly upper first is. Above there, we have essentially the highs by the upper second at $72,000. That's where this daily double top came in. And then above there, we're looking, 73 to 75, almost $76,000 by the upper third there. 76.5 actually in terms of the Bollinger Band spread. BBWP is picking up, but the bands are not set up in any kind of expansive posture. They're set up in a neutral or sideways posture or range posture. So, natural resistances are going to be the band levels, especially the upper first and upper second in this case. So around that 67.5 to that $72,000. Wouldn't be surprised to see those areas, as they are just about directly in line with overhead resistances, be areas of significant resistance. And to the downside, the same thing to the downside for supports, somewhere around $63,000 by the basis band here on the weekly. And then we've got that lower first there at 58.3, almost 58.4, which is a major daily level. That is the top side of the risk zone. Down below there, we've got the lower second coming in at 53, almost 800 at 53,767. Of course, this is going to update on Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few other things, though. Let's take a look in particular at the stochastic momentum indicator here. You can see the pivot is at 61,166. So Bitcoin trading a fair way away from there. Of course, we don't want to see Bitcoin closing anywhere below there by Sunday. So it is still relevant. We do have some confluence with, if we see a trend break, a close on the weekly above $65,000, we have a moving average crossover for RSI. This is a regular, RSI with a 12-period SMA on it. And it's all about the confluences. This is just the confluences all occurring at the same time. Swing higher low, trend break, Stoke pointed to the upside, regaining those levels of support and resistance, in this case overhead resistance. And then, momentum pointed up, and then we got RSI crossover, and like a whole bunch of confluent factors in play here. And they all are starting to paint the picture that I mentioned quite a while ago on the daily, when the daily structure, I said, this isn't a typical downtrending structure. It looks like we're in for a structural change, and, it's starting to play that out now. We just need to see $65,000 break on a weekly close. And, the bullish control zone is around $73,000. This is the top side or the edge of the bullish control zone for RSI here. This is right at the highs, essentially, right at the all-time highs, technically the edge of the bullish control zone. And midline and SMA are kind of to the downside here. Of course, this I will be talking about being updated on Monday, but, as it stands right now, the SMA is at $61,000. We've got the scale midline at just right under $60,000 at $59,825, and then the bearish control zone is all the way down there at $44,000, almost $45,000, kind of right at that bear market lower high of 2022 close open, which was coming in at 45.5. So it is a little bit under there, to be fair. But this is encouraging again for the bulls. Not too bad. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we want to see on the monthly. As we come into that Monday, so I won't be talking to you until after the close of this candle for the monthly quarterly. What we're seeing is what I wanted to see, and that was a recovery, just a quick, it wasn't even that Bitcoin closed below the upper first on the monthly, but it was a close open where the upper first moved past it. Well, we wanted to see a quick recovery of it, and then we want to see higher low structure emerge, especially if we want to lock in this low at $49,000 as the higher low. I still want to see, from a structural standpoint, I want to see closes above 67.5 or so or more to call this a closing low structure. Some people are going to be even more aggressive and call it like 71,300 over here. But what is encouraging is regaining that upper first. So we want to see that upper first at 61,350 right here, closed above on the monthly. That's a good thing, because then we can start looking to the upper second, between the upper first and the upper second, as the volatility zone of interest initially. This upper second is at that 78.5. So when I'm talking about the highs, and you've heard me say, above, or once Bitcoin starts pushing its local highs, I'm looking at it as zones of like 73 to 75, 75 to 78, 78 to 80, mid to low 80s from there. And then we start looking for the potential to start pushing up into the deep 80s, low 90s, and then mid 90s. Well, you can see why. We're about to get an update on the Bollinger Band set here, where we have 78, 181 actually. So I said that wrong. 78 is essentially where the upper second is on the monthly. The upper third is up here at $95,000, likely going to creep up to that $100,000 region. And you might remember that I called out some fib levels that are of interest right around that area from pulling the bear market fibs with extensions. So I will just kind of get that out there. Again, just a really simple fib. So when you look at, some of the areas of interest in terms of fib levels, we have some lower term timeframes that are lining up with this 1.168. And yes, you're probably like, what the hell is that? Don't worry about it. I backtested the hell out of this for many, many years. I just haven't really shown it a lot, but it gives you a nice mid-level after the one spot. And adhering to my 1.168 levels like this here, but we have a 1. It's essentially 116%, 116.8%. But we have this upper third is going to start creeping up into that 1272. Something I do want to note is once the bull run gets going, though, Bitcoin likes to close above the upper second and upper third, and we haven't even seen any of that yet. So things could get ripping to the upside, potentially much higher than many expect. Might take people by surprise, or it goes in and just plods its way along and slowly gets there over time, and everybody's like getting sick of waiting. And but price appreciation is always welcome. So in this case, Bitcoin closing above 61,350 or so, looking good. Let's go ahead and talk about this quarterly. This quarterly is something we're going to actually, the numbers are going to be a little different. We're going to use the index real quick here. But the quarterly is something very, very interesting. It's still in a nice compression here. We have not seen, we have not seen this get expansion yet, and it is going to very soon, likely, in the context of a quarterly, which is a very long time. So we would do well to remember that. But closes above the upper second is kind of what we're going to be looking for next, and that's right around where the all-time high is. And this is going to be either at or above the all-time high. We have the all-time high at 73,835 on spot price. On index, it's 73,757. The upper second is basically right there at 73,200. So it's about $500 below. And any closes above there, we're going to start to see aggressive expansion to the upside on a quarterly time frame, which is, kind of what we're waiting for. We started to see it kick off in terms of volatility uptick, but we were still getting this compression. So, volatility uptick of price within the bands here, but we're looking for that volatility, that aggressive volatility expansion. And it seems like, Bitcoin playing and closing above that upper first, which is what you want to see at 53,500. That just so happens to be one of the key areas that you see on my chart all the time. Bottom side of the danger zone is 53.5. It's one of the reasons why that has not moved. I get a lot of flack for that in the comments sometimes, or in my DMs sometimes, from some of my technical analyst friends. But there's a reason why that was there. And it just so happened to line up with a daily, right? That daily swing low on the second major downtrend of the range, right? So what do we see on the quarterly, though? Typically after the bull run kicks off, we see closes above the upper second and third, and we get that nice expansion. So that is what we're waiting for here on Bitcoin's quarterly time frame. I'm excited. Quarterly looks fine to me. I've been saying this the entire time. Like, this entire downside move, especially when you're looking at the monthly, this is bullish. What would be bearish, though? It's something to be aware of, because we do have to call out the potential bearish scenarios as well, which I don't think are actually bearish. I think they'd be false bear signals. But essentially, you've got the swing structure here is that it puts in this, it locks it in and like double tops or something, and then takes out this low, and then starts to chop, and then then it's zero, right? That's what everybody thinks. No, honestly, I think it would just go to electrical cost, which is where I'm going to end things. I think that would just be a prolonged compression, and everybody call it bear market, and they'd get absolutely washed. But either way, what I do want to update and make sure I keep you updated with is the electrical cost for Bitcoin miners. It is something important to point out. And I've mentioned this before, so I get some people that are like, how accurate is Caprioli Investments mining electrical cost chart? And I can tell you that it's within the margin of error of what we see internally for our metrics. If you were to equate the baseline power costs to mine Bitcoin, it's roughly within the margin of error. And within the margin of error is, between, we're talking like 2.5% plus to minus. So that is the margin of error, and it is a little bit wider of a margin of error when you're discussing something like power. So let's go ahead and update that. I do have it on this chart here, so let's go ahead and see. The last that we were looking at, it was 42. It was right at the top side here at 42.5 of a major weekly area. So it had dipped down below our target 2 of distribution, which is technically just that bear market lower high, with the accounting for the the ETF highs, right, at $49,000, which initially was a rejection of the bear market lower high, 45.5 to 48,240. And then Bitcoin went down and tested 38.5 and then pumped up to where we see it, right now. But in this case, we do need to update that. So I'm going to warn you, this chart is blindingly white. I'm going to be changing over the chart in 1, 2, 3. All right, so it's 47,400. So let's go ahead and update that. If I can actually get it clicked on. Looks like I did. Cool. So, it's just kind of right in our target 3 of distribution. Honestly, that's, I think, worst case scenario. So 42,400. It's basically right in line with a major support and resistance level. I do expect this, if Bitcoin starts to break out, we're going to get some more activity. We're already seeing more activity on the network. We've had a lot of miners getting taken offline and getting prepped for, these layer 2s and merge mining and all kinds of stuff. So, it's not abnormal to see the electrical costs come down a little bit. I would expect this to start rebounding soon, especially if Bitcoin starts to really push towards the highs again. And honestly, if it doesn't, that's even better. If it takes a little while to rebound, that's even better. So that means that there's we have some distance between price and electrical cost, which is just one factor in total production cost. So that's where I'm going to leave you. This particular Friday evening for me. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. And if you want to practice, by the way, charting, go ahead and do naked charts and take a look at trend and identify support and resistance by looking left. That is a tip that I had given to somebody in some DMs, and they said, you should say that in one of your videos. So there you go. You have a good morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. Of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that said, have a great weekend. Landy out.